With this being the first Wuthering Waves video on the channel, I wish to achieve two things. For one, I would of course want to gauge interest on this type of video for this game. And the last thing, being able to segue this series into a plethora of future videos. So much like the traditional Natasha video. We're starting off here with the strongest defensive and offensive option in all of Wuthering Waves. Yo, I'm going to be streaming consistently going forward. Twitch.tv/Toshio, the link will be in the description. Hope to see you there. Julian, currently known as Verina, is a 5-star Spectro character, often known for her amazing healing coupled with her amazing utility. She has a design that is rather hit or miss. I think given her aesthetic, she isn't all too bad in that department. She has had not one nor two, but 3 different designs in total. What makes her special is that as a launch character, her kit is absolutely loaded, which feels oddly too familiar. Verina hasn't always been the character you know and utilize today. To be quite honest, she's much more different than she used to be, and now she's a much more complete character. Not only did Verina focus more on her self-buffing capabilities, but she gave less utility to the team overall, and her current sequences is living proof of that. In previous versions of the game, Julian was even less of a healer and more of a partial damage dealer. But the changes that Verina did receive was impacting her DPS as a main damage dealer. But the thing is about Verina is that you aren't really looking to basic attack with the character, if ever, because she's a character you don't want to spend that much field time on anyways. And for this to be the fate of a healer while the rest of her kit remaining untouched, I think this is fair to say the least. But I can understand that if you were a player that was looking forward to Verina as a main DPS, then this definitely is a change that you weren't happy or too keen about. But this does, however, mean that healers are going to be one-dimensional in the sense of providing the utility and the heals, instead of being characters that provide the utility, the heals, and a little bit of damage on the side. It wouldn't be until the launch of the game where that has changed, and for the better, I'll let you be the judge of that. Her healing will remain untouched, and the damage amplification she gave would be longer lasting. With characters now doing less damage, this would shape up to be a meta that would allow healers to thrive. Longer lasting fights results in the increased usage of defensive options. Lastly, it's also important to note that the co-op experience was something thought about when it came to Verina, as she would be one of the only characters to be beneficial to a team party, allowing players to feel as if they're contributing to the overall cooperative experience with other players. Leaving Verina in the state she's in would be the best decision made by Kuro Game. Now, if we're being completely honest here, there is always going to be at least one outlier in the standard ban at the launch of every gacha to date. This is to entice players to roll for a specified character in the endless layers of RNG due to the predatory nature of gacha games. But you already know that. Wuthering Waves has circumvented this by allowing the players a much more easier way to get said character and ignore those layers of RNG. So it wasn't a surprise that most players who found themselves rerolling early on would choose either Verina or Calcharo, and then just roll for the other character using their standard banner selector. This is evidently how it goes with most gacha games, the most recent example being Honkai Star Rail. The 2 outliers in the standard banner were Bronya and Bailu. Now, while every other character has their use, they're a lot less utilized than the 2 aforementioned. Now, while Bailu has an age as well as a character, she can still hold her own as a defensive option in all the game's contents, assuming you'd use Bronya in the same team party. Verina being very similar to Bailu in the sense of a defensive option with added utility is why her shelf life will be a lot longer than that of Bailu. There's also another reason as to why this is the case. Verina essentially fills in the role of 2 instead of 1, unlike Bailu and more so traditional healers. The utility that is provided by Verina in the sense of universal damage boosting and attack boosting for everyone in the team party, not just one character like Baizi. Taking this a step further, Verina requires very little field time and does have massive uptime on those damage buffs, making her a great pairing with the most selfish and greediest damage dealers in terms of field time. Now, to play devil's advocate, Baizi being a 4-star gifted player early on is her selling point in the sense of her being widely accessible. This is assuming that the average player doesn't reroll and chooses another character for their selector ban or pity, not getting Verina in the process. I also understand that this is a comparison between a 4 and 5-star, so the 5-star will always be better in every metric if their roles are similar. To be brutally honest, no 5-star is truly future-proof. Gacha games are driven around getting players to continuously roll for newer characters, which brings me to my next point, why even bother? This goes without saying for majority of the content in the game. There is content where you require more than one healer, but as far as I'm concerned, you can get by with what the game already has. The direction of where the game is headed, which is towards a more so slightly in the favor of skill-based gameplay than that of non-skill-based gameplay, It only makes sense that you may not even need to roll for future defensive characters unless you're looking solely at the utility. If we're talking about the utility that is brought to the table, it's even more of a reason for Verina to be classified as future-proof because of Wuthering Waves' current gacha system. The current 50-50 gacha will result in the player losing to a raid off or standard banded character if RNG is not on their side. And pulling Verina dupes will provide the player with more quality of life for Verina, increasing her team-wide capabilities. At a certain point, those capabilities will be increased even further with Verina giving a spectral damage boost to everyone in the team, lasting for a very long time. The more damage amplifications being given to the team will increase her flexibility further, lessening the value of another damage amplification character. But on the contrary of this, that value is tied to spectral teams, which will be her niche at a certain point. This isn't inherently a bad thing, because what goes into the longevity of the character is dependent on how strong their buffs are for a team, essentially making said character best in slot in that team and not others. The same can be said with Baizi as well, giving a glacial damage boost to the team, which will certainly be her niche at a certain point. All of these sequences or dupes for the characters can be unlocked via the gacha shop. Just like the limited characters, sure, but you have to roll for said character first, making those limited characters have less than accessibility. Hypothetically, we can picture a point in the game's lifespan in which healers are pushed out of the meta because shields present themselves as being more valuable. We have seen enemies before in previous games with mechanics centered around shield usage, so it isn't a foreign idea completely. But we shouldn't expect to see this for some time, making this the glory age for Verina and other healers. There may also be a point in time where the resurgence of healers happens. Maybe the enemy's damage seeps through the shield, making those shield-based defensive characters less valuable. Again, another idea that isn't foreign because we have seen it before. Now I know what you might be thinking. Dodging and parrying attacks is a crucial part of Wuthering Waves' combat experience. While it's absolutely true, we can't expect the average player to dodge every single attack thrown their way. Kuro Game knows this. Having Verina circumvent that will allow the common player to play Wuthering Waves and enjoy their time, without having to play as if the game is a Souls-like. On the contrary to that, players that are more experienced with the move patterns of the bosses in Wuthering Waves will see Verina as being utilized for the utility she provides. This also means at a certain point, Verina will be a character that is less valuable for those that roll for said characters in the future that don't have defensive utilities in their kit, but provide stronger and tailor-made damage amplifications. For instance, a lightning buffer for the Kalchara Yinlin teams. Again, the closest comparison we have for Verina is pretty much Bennett, but a better Bennett because she gives attack and damage boost. And this is for the whole team, and she has a ton of healing too, but doesn't really get better with copies. She pretty much has a complete base kit at her first copy, which means for a lot of players going forward to the future of Wuthering Waves, you will find yourself using this character forever, whenever. So as time went on, the flexibility of Verina was one of her strongest suits as a damage amplifying defensive option, and the long lasting buffs made that flexibility even more potent. Once 1.1 was to arrive, Verina would receive one of her best damage dealers yet, because she had a kit, for once, that used her kit in its entirety. Jinshi shared the same element as Verina, which was a net positive. I mean, at a certain point, some of us will receive that spectral damage boost on her 4th copy due to getting Verina dupes, whether that's being RNG or deliberately buying them from the shop. Verina gave the best buffs for a greedy damage dealer such as Jinshi, while also giving her the passive stacks towards her forte circuit that she needed. See, the thing is that Verina has a liberation skill, or ultimate for short, that provides off-field healing but minor coordinated attacks on the enemy. These attacks would help give stacks to Jinshi during her rotation and allow for you to quickly ramp up her damage with all of the buffs added to the final resonance skill hit. If you think about it, these two feel like a dream come true pairing, and I think Kuro absolutely delivered when it comes to functionality. So there you have it. Verina is the best thing that happened for the game. I mean, getting a Bennett or Bronya this early into the game with easier accessibility is amazing for any player, whether they're returning, existing, or new. As for the future of this character, we are receiving some interesting characters in 1.2, so we'll have to stay tuned. It seems her 2 best teams are about to become even better. At the time of the re-editing of this video, there has been a drip tease of the upcoming characters for version 1.3. It's currently being speculated that one of the characters shown is another spectral healer, which is the first time Verina will actually receive some type of competition to her current throne. In actuality, we'll finally have 3 healers that also have amazing offensive buffing capabilities. Of course, assuming Shorekeeper is a defensive option and has offensive buffs in her kit. Thank you so much for watching, and have a nice rest of your day.